Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Tracy and I'm a part-time reseller on the platform Poshmark. And on this channel I like doing thrift hauls, what sold videos, and mystery box unboxings. Them are kind of my new passion and I got some coming up. So if you're not subscribed, think about subscribing because I got quite a few coming up. Some pretty good ones, I hope. Today I have a what sold for you, and this is for November 16th through the 30th. The beginning of November was really good. The second half of November was pretty good. I had quite a few sales, but as you maybe see, I kind of titled this one The Good, the Bad, the Ugly because I got some lower amount sales and some really ugly low sales. But I'm just full transparency here of everything that I sold for this 15-day period. The good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. I will pop up a picture of what sold, and just know when I tell you what I earned, that is minus the Poshmark platform fees and my cost of goods. So let's get going because I got quite a few again. The first thing I sold were these Bailey's Point black men's jeans. These I have no cost into them. My husband's son is in the military in California, and when he came home one time for the holidays, he cleaned out his closet and gave me all his stuff. He said, do what you can with it, otherwise donate it. So these were his. They sold for $12 with my earnings being $9.05. Next is a pair of Tommy Bahama Silk Blend corduroy pants. These had been altered. They were, I can't remember what size, but they were quite short. I got these at Goodwill. My average cost of goods that day was $3.23. They sold for $30 with my earnings being $20.77. Next is Fisher Price Little People. This was the miscellaneous lot of toys. I got like $1 into this. They sold for $20 with my earnings being $15. Another Fisher Price toy. These were the interactive toy lot. I paid $1 each for them. They sold for $18 with my earnings being $12.40. Here's a pretty embroidered boho blouse by the brand Style & Co. I picked it up for how it looked. I paid $1 for it at a garage sale. It sold for $17 with my earnings being $12.60. Old Navy. I list it, it sells. These came out of a thread-up denim box, and my average cost was $2 a pair. They were the Sweetheart jeans. They sold for $15 with my earnings being $10. Another pair of jeans. These were silver bootcut low-rise jeans. I paid $2 for them at a garage sale. They sold for $22 and my earnings being $15.60. Here is something I had these separated into different lots and they just weren't getting any interest. So I took all the listings down and combined them all together just recently. But it was a lot of 14 vintage Pez dispensers. I paid $1 for them at a garage sale. They sold for $14 with my earnings being $10.05. Here was a pair of Skims that were new in open box. I paid $3 for them. They sold for $15 with my earnings being $9. This black leather coat was by the brand Winlet. I picked this up at a garage sale it was an estate sale, and all the clothing and jackets were 3 for $5. So I have $1.50 into this. It sold for $46 with my earnings being $35.30. Here's something I got for free. Saved them from the landfill. I didn't know how they do. They sold. But it was this lot of 6 clamshell Walt Disney VHS tapes. They sold for $15 with my earnings being $12. Another pair of jeans. These were Rockin' Republic, the Cassandra bootcut jeans. Paid $2 for them. They've been listed over a year. They finally sold for $21 with my earnings being $14.80. Here, I just said this in my last haul, these sell. This was from 1987, the Rodney and Friends Hallmark Burger King plush. This was Randy. Got him out of a free box. He sold for $16 with my earnings being $12.80. I just had this in a haul not too long ago. It was this hand-stitched country cabin mallard duck framed art. I paid $1.50 for it. It sold for $13 with my earnings being $8.55. Another pair of jeans that came out of a thread-up denim box. I have my average cost of good at $2.25 for this pair. It was Nicole Miller Nomad Super High Rise Taper Crop Distressed Raw Hem Jeans. They sold for $18 with my earnings being $12.15. Here's a pair of men's jogger pants. I never knew this brand, but I just knew by the tag that it had to be something. I paid $1 for them. They're these Flint and Tinder black jogger sweatpants. They sold for $25 with my earnings being $19. I just had this in my recent church sale haul. It was the Coach Campbell Exotic Snakeskin embossed leather handbag. It was missing its shoulder strap. Paid $2 for it. It sold for $68 with my earnings being $52.40. These I just got out of a thread-up men's shoebox. My average cost of goods per pair in that box were $10.50. So I listed all the shoes that were in that box. These sold the very same day. Not for a lot, but they sold and they're gone. They were these Parrish Joseph Allen white slip-on loafers. They sold for $18 with making my earnings $3.90. So they're gone. They sold. This isn't the last barn set that I just got at the church sale. This was another one I had listed, but this one was from 1986, a Fisher Price Little People barn set. This one didn't have very many extra animals and pieces, but I paid $5 for this set at a garage sale. It sold for $40 with my earnings being $27. These here I paid 25 cents a piece for. They were a lot of two Pampered Chef kitchen utensils, a biscuit maker, and a ravioli maker. They sold for $15, making my earnings $11.50. Here, I love the vintage toys. This was from 1999. It was a Furby puzzle. Paid 50 cents for it. It sold for $12, with my earnings being $8.55. Here's a Torrid piece that I've had listed for a really long time. It was a scoop neck strappy swing tee. I paid $1.50 for it. It sold for $17, making my earnings $12.10. This right here, I just thought was very pretty. It was a very pretty pink color. It was velveteen. It was by the brand Lauren Conrad, but it was this button-up jacket. I paid $2 for it. It sold for $15, with my earnings being $10. I thought it'd go for more, but it's gone. Same with this. It was just this Columbia spell out crew neck sweatshirt that I paid $1 for. It sold for $15, making my earnings $11. Next is a bundle. Both of these items, I have no money into them. It was this little drummer boy sweater, little boy's sweater by the brand Bee Whiz, and this lot of 8 finger puppets that came in a toy lot that I had purchased. Both of these, the lady put it into a bundle and offered me $14, which I kindly accepted, making my earnings $11.05. Here's one of them. When I get thread up boxes, I try and list as much out of the box as I possibly can. These heels were by the brand Impo. They weren't worth very much, but they're in very nice condition, so I listed them. I had $5.80 into this pair. I have made my money back on these shoe boxes a long time ago, so I'm happy that these sold, but they only sold for $10, with my earnings being $1.25. So there's one of your examples of the uglies. Next is this shirt from J. Jill. It was the Pure Jill line. It was Pima cotton turtleneck. I paid $2 for, and it sold for $16, making my earnings $10.80. These here I got in my ThredUp fun boxes. I got one in each box. I lotted them together. They sold very quickly. They were Newick tags, Kate Spade, reusable shopping bag totes. I don't know for sure how much I got into them. I never even calculated it. So, but they sold for $23, making my earnings $18.40. Another bundle. This bundle was some plush by the brand Douglas. There was this German pointer that I paid 50 cents for, and this sloth that I paid $1 for. That bundle totaled $28, and my earnings were $20.90. Here's a pair of boots that were mine that I no longer wear because I don't wear any heels anymore. They were by the brand Just Fabulous. They were a faux suede, but they sold for $14 with my earnings being $11.05. I love selling stuff out of my closet that I'm no longer using. Here, these I picked up at a garage sale. They were brand new. There was 2 of them. They did want $5 a piece for them, but I ended up getting them for $7 for 2 of them. So I have $3.50 into this one. But it's just this Kohl's Care Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny with its book. It sold for $22 with my earnings being $14.10. Another pair of Old Navy jeans. These were the high-rise flare jeans that I paid $1 for. They sold for $17 with my earnings being $12.60. Disney Baby's Goofy plush. He was so adorable. He had his original tags. I paid $2 for him. I usually try and not spend more than $2 on a plush, but he sold for $15, making my earnings $10. These were given to me by somebody, I don't remember who, but they were these khaki jeans by Lee. No money into them. They sold for $16 with my earnings being $12.80. Here's a Lululemon Power Y tank that I paid $1 for at a garage sale. It's been listed quite a while. It sold for $16 with my earnings being $11.80. My Magic Bullet sold. This is from one of my very first videos. I got it at the church sale. I paid $5 for it. It finally sold for $42, making my earnings $28.60. Tupperware, I always pick it up. This was a vintage mustard yellow cake carrier that I paid 50 cents for. It sold for $30 with my earnings being $23.50. Precious Moments, I picked them up. Some of them are worth more than others. This was from 1990. That's what Friends Are For with its original box. I paid $2 for it. It sold for $13 with my earnings being $8.05. Here's a plush. This was Ralph Lauren. It originally had a sweater. Mine, it was missing. I paid $1 for him. He's from 1996. He sold for $15 with my earnings being $11. Another plush by the brand Dandy. It was a Labradoodle. Paid 50 cents for him. He sold for $14 with my earnings being $10.55. This, I always look at ashtrays, and this one I grabbed because it was cobalt blue. I paid 50 cents for it. It sold for $25 with my earnings being $19.50. Here's one of them examples of the ugly. This has been listed for a very long time. Picked it up when I first started reselling, not knowing very much. It was this Eddie Bauer striped Henley shirt. I paid $2.25 for it, which isn't bad. But it sold for $9, making my earnings $3.80. It's gone. Next is this Ralph Lauren navy full zip cable knit sweater that I just picked up at the Vintage Estate Hall. I paid $1.50 for it. It sold for $32 with my earnings being $24.10. Here's some action figures from the movie Predator. I paid $1 for them. They sold for $15 with my earnings being $11. Here's a story with this one. It's a Jellycat. It was this fox plush that I paid $2.50 for. It sold for $16, making my earnings $10.30. But the story is after it sold the other day, I had a notification that my Posher VA sent an offer on this Jellycat fox that is already sold. And here the thing was listed again in my Poshmark closet. Like, if somebody would have accepted the offer, I wouldn't have had it for them, because it's already sold. So I had to wait like almost 24 hours for that offer to go away before I could delete the listing. So I was like, and I was able to, so I was like, whew, but I don't know how that happened. And I sure as heck hope I don't have other things that are listed that I've already sold, because I'm in trouble then. Next was another plush. This was by the brand Gun from 1985. It was this brown bear. He was very cool. His name was Baron. I paid $1 for him. He sold for $20, with my earnings being $15. Another piece from my husband's son's closet. It was by the brand Helix. It was very cool. It was a Y2K piece, plaid shirt. It had a nice cross thing on the back, I think it was. It sold for $12, with my earnings being $9.05. Pioneer Woman doesn't sell for very much, but I always pick it up, especially if it was in great condition. And these were the 4-piece measuring bowls that I paid $1 for at a garage sale. They sold for $15, with my earnings being $11. Here's a cute frog plush. He had a little raincoat. He was from 1997, made by Mary Meyer. I paid $1 for him. He sold for $24, with my earnings being $18.20. This here was in my Christmas decorations box. It was mine. I just didn't want him anymore. It was a Kohl's Care Grinch plush. He sold for $8, with my earnings being $5.05. And the Fisher Price Little People Barn set, the one I just picked up and had in a haul. Paid $2 for it at the church sale. It sold for $55, with my earnings being $42. I don't have any more left. Next is a new without tags Carter's Lovey. It was the white unicorn with the satin edge. I paid $2 for this when we were on vacation. It sold for $18, with my earnings being $12.40. Thanks for sticking with me. We got just a few more. Next is this Winnie the Pooh 3D head plush stocking. I paid $1 for it. It sold for $20, with my earnings being $15. Here's the other Kohl's Care Looney Tunes plush. This was the Daffy Duck one with the book. $3.50 I paid for him. It sold for $22, with my earnings being $14.10. So they both sold for $22. Next, I picked this up just because it was brand new in the package. It was this inflatable snowman costume. I paid $1 for it. It sold for $15, with my earnings being $11. Here was a cashmere sweater by Apartment 9. Very soft sweater. I paid $1 for it. It sold for $18, with my earnings being $13.40. Another Kohl's Care plush. This was Big Bird. I paid 25 cents for him. He sold for $9, with my earnings being $5.80. These I just had in my church sale haul. These were the 18-inch handmade doll clothes. $2 I paid for them. They sold for $21, with my earnings being $14.80. Another bundle, a bundle of some Madewell skinny jeans. The first pair were black that I paid $2 for. The second pair was a high-rise skinny pair that came out of a thread-up box that I paid $2.25 for. They sold for $25, with my total earnings being $15.75. Skinny jeans, they're selling for me, so anytime I find them, I pick them up. This one here, I'm sad to see go. I knew it would sell. I just got this from the church sale too. It was this camouflage Green Bay Packer Clay Matthews jersey. I paid $2 for it. It sold for $45, with my earnings being $34. Another pair of shoes that came out of a thread-up box that weren't worth very much, but I still listed them and they sold. They were these Roxy slip-on shoes. They had a palm tree on them. I paid $5.80 for that pair of shoes. They sold for $10, with my earnings being $1.25. Woohoo! Next is a vintage piece. This was a Snoopy and Woodstock tackle box. I fell in love with this, and I had quite a few lowball offers on it. It finally sold for $20, with my earnings being $15. An Old Navy floral boho blouse, really pretty fall colors. I paid 50 cents for it. It sold for $20, with my earnings being $15.50. More Fisher Price Little People. This was the lot of the figures. There was 12 of them. I just got these at the church sale. Paid $2 for them. They sold for $21, with my earnings being $14.80. Here was a vintage Christmas candle lamp. When you plugged it in, the sparkly water moved around. Paid $1 for that. It sold for $48, with my earnings being $37.40. Here's a pair of Banana Republic denim capri pants. They came from ThredUp. My average cost of them were $2.15. They sold for $17, with my earnings being $11.45. Here is a New It Tags piece from the brand Band of the Free. It was a floral maxi skirt. Paid $4 for it. It sold for $18, making my earnings $10.40. And the ugliest of the sells was this American Eagle long sleeve Henley shirt that I paid $2.50 for. It's been listed since 2023. It sold on an offer of $6, which I took because I just wanted it gone, making my earnings 55 cents. Woohoo! Next is a piece by Aerie. It was this cropped, oversized sweatshirt that I paid $2 for. It sold for $17, with my earnings being $11.60. Here's a pair of Hoka slides. I paid $10 for these on Poshmark. They sold for $34, with my earnings being $17.20. Somebody was running a sale, and I ordered like 4 or 5 things, and I just didn't like these. But my average cost of all them items was $10. Next is a Torrid bra. It was this purple bra that I paid $1 for. It sold for $15, with my earnings being $11. These came out of my closet. I don't know why I had such a small size pair of pants, but they were in my closet. They were by the brand The Limited. They were just some gray trouser pants. They sold for $10, with my earnings being $7.05. This was in my ThredUp fun box. It was by the brand Kitsch. It was the satin eye mask. It sold for $8, with my earnings being $5.05. Men's piece by the brand Polo Ralph Lauren. It was a pair of khaki shorts that I paid $2.15 for at Goodwill. They sold for $18, with my earnings being $12.25. Another ThredUp item came out of a shoebox. These were the Nike Fly Ease sneakers. Average cost was $5. They sold for $30, with my earnings being $19. And the last 2 pieces my youngest daughter gave me. She picked them up at the end of somebody's driveway and thought I'd like them. They are very cool. They're for an 18-inch doll. They were these vintage style upholstered settee and high back chair. They sold to the same person, but they purchased some separately. The settee chair sold for $30, with my earnings being $24. And the high back chair sold for $30, with my earnings being $24. So I'm teaching my daughters. They have a good eye. But thank you guys for sticking with me through this long video. But that's everything for the second half of November that I sold. Like I said, some were good, some were not bad. They were good, but there was some uglies in there. So thank you everybody for spending some of your quality time with me today. If you're not subscribed, maybe you'll think about subscribing. And if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up on the way out, I'd appreciate that as well. Everybody have a great day. Bye. Catch you on the flip side.